and welcome to the first night of the 2024 Meet the Candidates Forum for the Indiana State primary election on May 7th. This event is sponsored by, and I want to make sure we can see their logos, by the Hendricks County GOP, the Hendricks County Democrats, the Republican newspaper, and the Hendricks County Community Foundation. Funding for this event has come part from the Lilly Endowment through a gift implementation grant to the Community Foundation. I am Jana Morrison, and I am the Executive Director of Leadership Hendricks County, which is a nonprofit organization in Hendricks County with over 700 alum, which I love being in this room because we're going to have alum on the stage tonight. We have some alum back in that other room who have gone through our program, and our program is about teaching people about our community and about leadership. So I'm excited to be your moderator tonight and get to see some of my alumni here. A few notes about the format for this evening's forum. We have invited the candidates from all contested legislative races in our community to speak on stage tonight. This year, the elections being held are state and federal elections, and many positions are not contested in the primary election. Therefore, we have candidates for State Senate District 7, District 24, and District 35, as well as candidates for State Representative District 28 and District 40 speaking tonight. Remember, we have only invited those running for a contested seat to speak tonight. However, you guys may have seen all those tables back there that you can meet other candidates in the community running in the primary election are invited to have a table on the other side of this venue. We will have each district speak separately with a short break in between. We anticipate the candidate for State Senate District 7 to start shortly. We'll give it a couple of minutes. We'll start with that. And then we'll go into State Senate District 24 starting at 6:10. State Senate District 35 will start at 6:35. State Representative District 28 starting at 7 p.m. and State Representative District 40 starting at 7:25. I will not start those early. They will start on time just because of filming and from different people coming to watch different candidates. The format for tonight's presentation will be the same for every candidate. This is not a debate. Each candidate has the opportunity to speak uninterrupted. Each candidate gets 9 minutes total across for 3 rounds. A 3-minute opening statement, a 3 minutes to answer questions, and something I love about Hendricks County, these questions came from our community. People in our community wanting to know what's happening. So they're provided ahead of time, and they're able to respond to other candidates. Candidates may choose to address all the questions or focus on a specific one. And then finally, they'll have a 3-minute closing or respond. The questions for the candidates were solicited from the community and curated by the sponsors. This event is being live streamed and recorded. The recording will be available on the internet. All right, if you guys are ready to get started. Yes, sir. The notice I got said 2 minutes opening statement. You're saying 3? It is 3 minutes opening statement, 3-minute questions, and the 3-minute closing statement. If you want to go 2, I'm okay with that. You can go 3. You can keep. I know you can keep talking though for an extra minute, so I think we'll be just fine. All right. Are there any other questions from candidates? All right. We will start with State Senate District 7, Brian Buchanan. Brian, start with your opening comments. Okay. Oh, here's your.
There we go. Okay.
No.
Test. There we go. Okay. Well, good evening. Thank you all for coming out this evening. My name is Brian Buchanan. I currently serve State Senate District 7. I thought I'd start off a little bit with the background about myself, a little bit about my family, a little bit about my goals and what I do in the Senate and what committees I serve on. Again, Brian Buchanan, Senate District 7. I live just north of Lebanon, Indiana.
All right, Brian, if you have 3 minutes to answer the questions that are up there, you can choose to answer them all or what you feel is most important to you.
All right. Well, I will start off with the top one. Do you support charter or public schools, and why? And I will say, my answer is not up there. I support kids. I'll be very clear. I support kids. And too often we turn this conversation over what type of school, charter school, public school, homeschooling, online, virtual, whatever it is. We try to turn it into an either-or conversation. For me, this is not an either-or conversation. It is I support kids. I want to make sure every kid has an opportunity to the best education that they can have. I believe parents need to guide that decision, and then we need to support kids entirely. And that includes charter schools, that includes public schools, that's private schools, that's all sorts of it. And my philosophy, and you will see this through my work in the Senate, is I support kids. I feel that is the number one thing for us to do is to support kids. Next question, if elected, how will you work to increase support of public education? And I think that, and again, I want to probably change the word, just make it education to kids, because I think, again, that's where we need to continue to try to increase support there. And one is, support definitely has a financial component to it. Oftentimes, when people see support, you only think financial, and financial is big. It is really big. It's something, we have to have the funding in order to educate our kids, but there are other ways to provide support too. I think, if there's staffing, if there's law changes, if there's different ways to provide that support other than monetary, we need to look at that as well. But one of the things I try to do as a state senator is I try to have a good relationship with school boards and superintendents in my Senate district, better understand their needs and how we can help solve those. And I always like to say, sometimes in state government, particularly on the education committee, we often have a lot of good ideas. There's a whole lot of good ideas. But I often say there's a difference between something that's a good idea and something that actually needs to be in state statute, needs to be a state mandate. And I really believe, something I always try to ask myself when it comes to education, is what is so important that should be a state mandate? We make every school in Indiana do it, from the smallest schools to the biggest schools, and what should just be possibly a suggestion, something we should consider doing. So that's where I am. And I will say, I always like to point out, when it comes to education funding, half of our state budget goes to support kids, support education right now. And if you break that down, if you add up all dollars, state dollars, federal dollars, local dollars, for every kid in a classroom, public school in Indiana that is, it's about $12,000 a kid. You can do the math on how much money it is. An average room of 22, 23 kids, it's about $280,000 in that classroom. So we really need to ask ourselves a question, okay, are there some changes there? How do we do it? I do recognize having a third grader and a fifth grader.
Brian, I'm going to wrap you up on your questions, but the nice thing is you're alone, so if you want to continue that on your closing remarks, go right ahead. You've got 3 minutes left.
Okay, well, I will say with kids, I do recognize, and again, this is being in my own, I try to make it around several schools in my Senate district and talk to administrators and teachers. But being in my own kid's school, third grader, fifth grader, they go to Thorntown Elementary. I've been in the building quite a bit, is you see a lot of challenges. A lot of kids today have a lot of challenges, and they have a lot of needs. And the question is, what role should school play in that? How can we provide resources to help those kids? So there are a lot of kids that have a lot of needs. So that's where I want to be cognizant on, when you provide support, it may not be monetary, it may be other ways as well. With that, in my closing, I will say, one of the things I pride myself on is being accessible, being able to talk with the representatives, city officials, county officials, constituents, making sure I hear their needs. And the last question here is, how do you collaborate with others effectively to govern state? I think we got to make sure in the General Assembly we understand your needs. We understand what's important to you. We need to listen to your ideas. That's honestly how a lot of good legislation, where a lot of good ideas come from. So that's where I always like that open channel communication. I always tell people I'd much rather just have a conversation on the phone. Oftentimes people find it when they email me with a problem or concern, I'll often ask either for their phone number, or I will respond with my cell phone number and say, give me a call when you get a chance, because
Thank you, Brian. That's Brian Buchanan, State Senate, District 7. District 24 candidates, Brett Clark and Ann Engelhardt. We're going to start with Brett with his opening remarks. Brett, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks. Fair.
Well, thank you very much. As she said, my name is Brett Clark, and I'm running for state senate. Now, you might say, wait a second, weren't you the sheriff? Aren't you the sheriff? What's going on here? And the answer is yes. In Indiana, we're one of 3 states that has term limits on our elected sheriffs. So after my time at the sheriff's office, I did 33 years there. About a year ago, my wife and I decided that it was time for me to retire. So I went into private industry, didn't look back, and certainly never had any intention of running for another political office. And yet here we are. I like to sort of compare that to a football game, and some of you have heard my story before. But imagine it's a beautiful fall day. The weather is perfect, the sun is shining. It's your favorite team on the field, by the way. We have seats at the 50-yard line, dead center. Wife's there, friends are in there. It's just a perfect day. You've all seen those seats and said, gosh, darn, it'd be great to be that guy or that girl or be in that seat. And maybe you've been in them. And that was my retirement. It was great to be me. But you know the only thing I could think about? Getting in the game. Why is that? Because you can't change the scoreboard if you're not on the field. Now, I'm not up here trying to sell you this idea that I'm Peyton Manning or I'm going to win the Heisman Trophy. But I can tell you this, I know I can contribute to conversations that Hoosiers care about. I want to serve and make a difference. For me, that is the why. The what is not simple, but it's law enforcement. It's mental health. I wish those two weren't so closely intertwined, but folks, they are, and we can do better. It's infrastructure. It's roads. It's bridges. It's high-speed internet. Did you know in Putnam County and part of my district, they have 11 bridges closed just because they can't afford to fix them? We can do better. There's a lot of rural counties that are struggling just to provide basic services like roads and bridges, and I think the state can be a great partner. Finally, border security and immigration. You might think, wait a second, Brett, that's a federal problem. And I would agree with you, but I've been to the border. I've seen it. It's not cliche to say every state is a border state. It's a train wreck, and we can definitely do better. Do you know that we have 24,000 people in our prison system? 24,000 in Indiana prisons. And yet in our legislature, there's 150 chairs. We have 0 sheriffs, 0 experts, the folks that run your jails and understand corrections, eat, live, and breathe it. 0. We have lots of doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurial types. We certainly have education-related folks. But one of the most basic fundamental things is public safety, and we have 3 to 4 maybe out of those 150 chairs that have ever done that kind of work. Folks, I think God put you where you're supposed to be, and I think for Brett Clark, maybe at this time in the world, it's the state senate. I hope you'll agree. Please help me send the sheriff to the Senate and vote for Brett Clark on May 7th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett. All right, Ann, you have 3 minutes.
Well, good evening, everyone.
I'm going to stop you because it looks like your mic's not working.
Light is on. Light's on.
All right. There we go. Yeah, let's do that. Just give it your, let's go with that one. I'm wired.
All right. Well, thank you for everyone for coming tonight. I just really appreciate you being a part of the decision on who our next legislators will be. I want to thank, first of all, the foundation for hosting this. They've put a lot of work into it, and they've really done a great job. I want to thank Ms. Morrison for her facilitating the conversation, Paasch Interactive for being able to present this live stream so others can watch it who couldn't attend, and thank you to the fairgrounds for always providing great space for
Thank you so much, Ann. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of a switcheroo even again with the mics. Because we're not catching that on film, so you guys are going to use my mic. I'm going to hand it off to you. And actually, we're going to do this a little bit different. So Ann, since you went second with your opening, you will go first with questions. I will put those up on the screen for everyone to be able to see. And you guys are going to have to really like each other and share that podium right there.
There you go. Try this again.
That's right. All right, so you want me to use this mic?
None of the wireless ones are going through YouTube.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for letting us know that. Well, last fall, when I decided to run, I embarked on a listening tour because I knew that there were topics I didn't have a lot of knowledge on or expertise, and I wanted to be able to learn a little bit about some key issues that our state faces. Relationships are the best way to collaborate and govern the collective needs of our state. After meeting with folks and hearing their concerns, I am not surprised that 2 of the questions are about education. But ultimately, when I shared with folks, the reason I wanted to meet with them is because I wanted to learn a little bit about their industry, their challenges, where they lead. But when I face a bill that I don't have a lot of knowledge, I want to be able to pick up the phone, call them, and ask, what are your thoughts on this bill? Does that impact you negatively or positively? An example of that would be agriculture. I grew up in the city and I live in the suburbs. I don't understand farming, but now I have at least 5 farmers who said that they would help me figure out farming bills so that we are not making decisions that would hurt them and negatively create a burden for them. I support these 2 questions I'm going to put together. I think the real question is, do we support students in their achievements, families in their choices? Indiana provides many choices for parents, and our children need options. No one option meets the needs of all children. That's probably even true in some of our families. I will fight for us to work together, whether it's charter, private, public, virtual. I will fight for us to work as one voice. The truth is, statewide, our children are struggling. And we need to work together as one voice to come together to create solutions for them. They depend on us. If we're going to increase support, and I don't think we need to increase financial support, I think we need to increase support for educators by giving them the tools that they need so they can educate our children. Anyone who goes into education, whether it's a certified teacher or a support staff, they're there to help children. So let's give them tools they need. Well, first of all, Senate Bill 1 is a tool that actually will really help children, K-3 literacy. iRead's a good test. It's a good tool, and teachers can use that test to help with their children and help those struggling students. Senate Bill 282 speaks on truancy and holding parents accountable. Educators cannot do it alone. iLearn, on the other hand, is a tool that does not provide accurate data. You can ask any teacher that has performed iLearn, and they will tell you that. And so students need, though, that accurate data. Teachers need accurate data so they can prescribe the correct intervention. As someone who is well-versed in education, I am ready to lead collaboratively with equipping our teachers with tools so that they can be successful and can achieve in all subjects. Again, we don't need to increase the budget. We need to provide great tools. And on another one of those, oh, okay.
Because we all have to share this mic now. So we're all sharing this mic. So I'm hoping neither one of you have cooties because I'm going to get it now. Thank you, Ann, for answering those questions. Brett, you have 3 minutes to answer.
All right, if you know me, I go pretty quick. I'll try to get these in my time, but it's going to be difficult. Public, private, charter, home, trade, faith-based, etc. Yes, please. The answer to this question is all of the above. Schools are not a one-size-fits-all model, and they certainly weren't made to be that way. Indiana does an outstanding job already of giving our parents and our families options that will work for them. And the focus, as we've already heard from all of us, should be on the kids and their needs and the families, not the politics. You know, in my former life, I got the chance to speak in front of large crowds, often with police executives and sheriffs across the country. I would always kind of do a test because it was interesting to me and ask the folks in the audience, who among you would go back in time and be cops again? Every one of them. Absolutely, I love my job. All right, folks, how many of you, police leaders, remember, would want your sons and daughters to be policemen? Every hand in the room dropped almost. You know what, folks? I think we're getting that way with our schools and our teachers. And I think that we need to do better supporting them. They need to be excited about their work. They need to get up in the morning and be happy to go in there. Thriving and successful teachers equal thriving and successful students. Marijuana. If a vote was held today on recreational marijuana, I got to be a no. I just retired from the sheriff's office a year ago. Here's why. I served on the National Sheriff's Board for 4 years, and this was a big topic among the nation's sheriffs, especially in the legal states where they were doing that and making those changes. Not a single one of those guys, not one, and we asked every single one of them, said it was a net good. Why? It increased workloads, crashes, difficulty with OWI enforcement, more ER visits, and more accidental ingestion by our kids. They were often not even invited to the preliminary discussions when the government started making those kind of decisions, and then saw very little, if any, of all the promised tax dollars that they told. Now that being said, bear with me, my mom suffers from MS, really bad. One of my sheriff buddies has a grandchild with seizures. We've got other friends in law enforcement and military that deal with PTS daily. If there was a way to help those folks and involve some of these substances, count me in, because we got to do it. And I can introduce you to them. Federally, the government needs to fix the banking situation because it's dangerous. When you have a cash business that has $120,000 in the back room, that's not safe for anyone. So let's reschedule it or completely deschedule it so legitimate medical research can be done at the federal level. And if we start having those conversations more already, let's make sure law enforcement and fire and EMS and medical doctors are at the table. Finally, governing. That's the way I took that last one. The key to being effective is putting in the time. It's building and maintaining relationships. It's doing your homework and listening. The focus must be on common sense, solutions, and collaboration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brett, for answering those questions. You can stay right here because since you went first, you will go first again so that, let me turn my timer off, I'm buzzing, so that Ann can close with her closing remarks.
Well, thanks again, and thank you all for taking the time to come out. I can guess this probably isn't the way that you wanted to spend your Tuesday night, but we have a very nice showing, and that speaks volumes to just our community and how much you care. And thanks again for all the folks who put it on and made it possible. And thanks to the candidates and their families. I've been through this before, and I know the toll that it takes on everybody. So thank you for that. It takes guts. You know, very often the best predictor of future success and performance is past success and performance. Many of you know me, you know how I work, what I've done. Many of you have voted for me in this room more than one time. I want to serve, I want to make a difference, as I said before. I will work for you, and I will earn your continued trust. I will put in the time and commit to learning and improving, and I will serve with integrity. I'd ask that you check out our Facebook page, our website. We're very active on there. I've got a nice table back there with my wife, all kinds of things. Please check us out. Thank you again. I humbly ask for your prayers and your support. Let's send the sheriff to the Senate. Please vote for me, Brett Clark, on May 7th. Thank you very much.
It's with an honor to be able to speak before you. It's an honor to be able to even throw my hat in the ring for you to consider serving with me by voting for me. I'm a commercial broker. I believe in transparency and all of our developments that are going on. I'm a school board member. I've worked with the administration to lower our debt levy by 19% and approved referendum by 32%. That's your money. That's your money we've saved. I go in and I work and I collaborate with people. I'm a task results-oriented person, and I work to find out where people are and how we can come together on the same issues. I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm a dedicated volunteer in our community. I'm a follower of Jesus. My name is Ann Engelhardt, your next state senator, and I'm asking for your vote on May 7th. And thank you for taking an active role in electing our next state legislator.
Thank you, Brett and Ann. They are both running for State Senate District 24. We'll be following up with State Senate District 35. We will start at 6:30 with those two candidates. State Senate District 35 candidates. Welcome to the stage, Michael Young and Philip Clay. Michael, you will start with your opening comments, and you have 3 minutes.
Tell me where to go. Oh, you will? I'll push the button the same time you shoot. Okay, go. Well, thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. The most important thing that we have in our country are free elections. Other countries, they don't have that. And if you want to have an election, sometimes you might disappear in the middle of the night. But in our country, that doesn't happen. We live in the greatest country on the face of the earth. Unfortunately, not everyone takes elections seriously because we got a county of maybe 120, 130,000 people. And this is what we have here plus what's at home. But you all are the most important part of our electoral process. It's not me, it's not the other candidates, it's you all. You guys make the decision as to how you're going to be governed, in our case, for the next 4 years. And you'll have more power and authority than the ones who don't participate. And yet they're the ones that always gripe. You have the right to gripe if we mess up and vote for people that's new. So I want to applaud you for coming here tonight, whatever candidate you're supporting. A little bit about me. I grew up my younger years out in Belleville. 39 and 40. That's where I lived. They call it still today the new housing addition, even though I was a kid about 5 or 6 years old when we moved in. But it's still called the new housing addition. I'm not old enough to go to a one-room schoolhouse, but I did to go to 2 3-room schoolhouses. Belleville had grades 2, 4, and 6. Cartersburg had grades 1, 3, and 5. And so I went to 3-room schoolhouses and had a great education, public schools. They did it right out in Hendricks County, and they're still doing it right today. I come from a family of 9 kids, so there was a lot of us growing up. And I have 5 grandkids. One lives here, go to Purdue, don't hold that against him. I'm an IU guy, but he goes to Purdue, and that's fine. He's getting a great education up there as well. And I got 4 grandkids and 2 daughters who live out in Virginia Beach. And I don't know if Brett Clark's still here, but my son-in-law is a police officer. And he started out as an undercover officer. That scared me a little bit, but he does a great job for his community, and he puts his life on the line for us every day he's out there. And so my job, I guess, as your elected official, is to serve you. Nobody else but you. There's nobody at the State House that I work for other than the people that live in my district. I don't have to cast a vote because they want me to. I cast a vote because you want me to. That's my only job, is to represent you. And each and every one of you are very important. Real quick, 5 seconds. One time a guy from Hendricks County called me about a bill I was going to vote a different way on. He explained to me why it was bad, and we had a talk for about 30 minutes, and guess what? I changed my mind and voted a different way. That's the power you all have over your elected officials. Make sure you use it.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that. Next, we have Philip Clay. You have 3 minutes for opening remarks.
I'm going to do my best to not take 3 minutes, because by the time we get to the 3rd round of state senate candidates, I'm sure you guys are like, bring on the state reps, and I feel the same way. So my name is Philip Clay, and I'm from Plainfield, Indiana, and I say that proudly, and I'm honored to be here tonight as a candidate for Indiana's 35th State Senate District. I'm excited for the opportunity that we have, and I say we because this is a journey that you all are taking with me, the opportunity that we have to send the first elected official to the State House from Plainfield, Indiana. And I'm very humbled by that opportunity. I'm very excited to make that happen. I wouldn't be here tonight without the support of my beautiful wife, Maddie, and our kid, Max, over there. If you hear any ruckus in the back, I'm the guy that brought the toddler to the political event. I'm sorry, but it had to be done. My day job is banking. I spend my day helping people get out of sticky financial situations and helping them improve their lives. In my free time, I'm the president of the Redevelopment Commission in Plainfield, so I work to help bring downtrodden and sometimes bare areas of Plainfield back to life and bring new development. In my additional free time, I also own a company that focuses on soft skill development for young men, teaching how to be gentlemen, teaching how to be young professionals, something I'm very passionate about. I bring up those three things because all three of those things translate very well into being a state senator. Being able to sit down and analyze problems, work through problems with others, and see what we can do to make the most sense of the situation. Having soft skills, developing communication skills, working with other people, making sure that the conversations that we're having benefit all Hoosiers while still upholding the conservative values that we hold dear. And lastly, as president of the Redevelopment Commission, I see area of opportunity in places that don't always see the same, don't always have the best chance, to be honest with you. I'm incredibly excited to get to know you guys tonight. Like I said, I'm not going to use the full 3 minutes, but I'm excited to be on this journey with you guys. Thank you. So again, third round of people answering the same questions. My mom's not here tonight. She's actually doing state testing as a charter school teacher, but I feel like she would throw a shoe at me if I didn't answer the first question because she is a charter school teacher. Just like everybody else said, charter schools are public schools, homeschool, all of those, virtual options, everything. I guess the question that I would have is, why isn't a parent answering this question? This isn't a question for a politician. This is a question for a parent. And I support parents' rights to choose the best opportunity for their child. My son is 2, and at some point he's going to have the choice to go to a public school or private school, or I don't think my wife could stand homeschooling, but at some point we're going to have the opportunity to pick what school best fits his needs and gives him the best chance at success. So we look forward to that. In terms of educational support, I think education has quite a bit of support. I think what we're missing is the parental partnership with teachers. I feel like society's gotten to a point where parents drop their kids off at school and expect teachers to, raise our kids. As a parent myself, I understand that my kids' educational time extends beyond the classroom, and it's my job to make sure that the values that I want him to be taught are being upheld in the home, and that he's responding to those in school, and he's doing the right things, and he's acting as we would want him to. I think what's incredibly important, and I'm not just saying this because it's something I do in a career, but I think it's incredibly important that we educate our young people and we give them opportunities. Not every student is a college student. And I think we're starting to see that. We have students that want to go into trades. Maybe they want to go into banking. Maybe they want to do an apprenticeship. And I think we have to spend more time finding those solutions for our students, because right now we have an entire generation of kids who just went through COVID who are having relationships over text message, from asking someone out to breaking up over text message. To me, that's just, it's crazy. In terms of marijuana, I'm very much in the same vein as what Brett said, and this really comes from a law enforcement perspective, and speaking to a lot of my friends in law enforcement, it costs about $10,000 to train a police canine. I had the chance to go through Plainfield Police Citizenship Academy. $10,000 to train a police canine, and what you can't do is go and untrain a dog for marijuana, right? Once they learn it, they learn it. Brett had mentioned, insurance rates, car crashes, OWI kits. There's a myriad of things that I think we don't think about when we think about tax revenue just solely off of legalizing marijuana. But much in the same vein, there are medicinal purposes for it, and I absolutely support those, and I'd be happy to see those come across the Senate floor, and I think with the right parameters, that is absolutely something I would support. And then lastly, collaboration is incredibly important, and one of the most important things to me was before I decided to run, I called my friend Mike Young here, and I said, Mike, we live in an age of polarizing politics, and people don't want to talk to each other, and I'm calling you to tell you that I'm running, and I'm running against you not because I dislike you or not because I have some issue. I'm running because there's an opportunity for us to make change in the State House. I'm incredibly excited about that. Thank you.
I got my little timer so I don't go off. Well, the first one is, do you support charter schools or public schools? I support any educational entity that gives our kids a great education. My daughter, let's say, hey, I went to public schools. I'm a senator because I got a great education. My kids all went to a public school. They have a great education. My one son served in the Marines and went to Fallujah. His life was on the line. He now runs a business up north. One daughter was a special education teacher, and the other daughter is a nurse because of the education they received. But I am concerned about our children getting the best education possible. In 2013, our proficiency rates on English was 82%. For math, it was 80. Anybody have any idea what the proficiency rates are today? 41.9% for math, 41.9% for English. Over a 50% drop. Our kids aren't being able to read. That's why I had Senate Bill 206, I think, but our Senate bill, which is similar to mine, was Senate Bill 1. We're going to get our kids to be able to read. We're going to start by second grade and start testing them as to whether they can read or not, and we're putting together a program to help them be able to read. We're going to bring in specialists and teachers who are specially trained before the start of third grade and work with these kids so they can read. If they can't read by third grade, their life, their educational life, their working life, their family life is going to be difficult because they don't have the capabilities to make improvements. And we got to work with our kids to make sure that they can read. And the other thing is, unlike Senate Bill 1, we don't know why our kids aren't reading. We spend more money. Teachers, I think, do a great job. They obviously did with me and my kids. But why aren't our kids reading? We don't know the answer, but we need to find out because that is our job. How I work to increase the support, it's obviously talking with educators, talking to parents, and talking to the superintendents, which I do every year, and put together bills based on our conversations. We got to have these ongoing conversations till we get our kids in a position to read. Real quick, what's one? Marijuana. I'm going to tell you a story. I was the author of the CBD oil bill. That's why we have it, because I was the author. My brother had glioblastoma. He was in so much pain. He cried. It broke my heart. Somebody told my brother that.
Questions, but
Okay.
you have closing remarks.
So I'm going to fit that in there. I'll lead in that one. Great idea. Oh, okay. So anyway, my brother had glioblastoma, deathly pain. Someone told him they could get him marijuana to reduce the pain. You know what? He wouldn't take it. He asked me one question. Is it illegal? I said, yeah. He cried, but he wouldn't take it because he didn't want to break the law. So what I favor in regard to marijuana is not to be able to smoke it casually and whatever you want to do. They do have benefits medically. We know that. We know it works with CBD oil too. If we can get to the place where the federal government authorizes that we can do medical marijuana, and we can have a system that guarantees we're not going to write a prescription for a toenail, but do it for something that's really important that can make a life change in somebody, especially people that have pain, I would be willing to consider medical marijuana because I think we can do that. And doctors will do it the right way. They write prescriptions all the time. The only problem is today under the law, they can't write a prescription. And I'm not going to be breaking the law. Also, I just want you to know that some of the bills, I mentioned one, but let me just tell you a little bit about me politically. I'm one of the most conservative people in the General Assembly. Unlike a lot of legislators, I read every bill. I don't have a life during session. My weekends are spent in bed reading sometimes 200-page bills. But you know what? I figure that's why you send me there, to do my job, to know what's in these bills, to represent you the best way that I can. And the only way I can do that is to read those bills, and I read every one of them. Conservative organizations such as the Indiana Family Institute, 100% rating. National Federation of Independent Business, nationally, 94% rating. National Federation of Independent Businesses for Indiana, 89% rating. The American Conservative Union, a few years ago, 100% with a lifetime rating of 88%. American Conservative Union of Indiana, my cumulative rate, 85%. The Indiana Manufacturers, 88% with a cum rate of 78. I do my job based on what I believe, and people vote for me knowing what I believe. I never hide it. People are satisfied with the job I do for them, and I do it the best I can on the abilities that my God has given me. And if I don't, then it's time to get somebody else. But right now, I'll tell you what, I'm one of the best legislators in the Indiana General Assembly representing the people in my district. Thank you very much.
Again, my name is Philip Clay, and I'm from Plainfield, Indiana, and I stand before you tonight asking for your vote on May 7th. I'm a first-time candidate, and after hearing Mike's pedigree, I feel a little inferior. But what I'm not inferior in is my work ethic. My campaign team and I have knocked in 4 weeks, 1,200 doors. We've had hundreds of meetings. We've made hundreds of phone calls. The one thing that we won't be in this campaign is outworked, and the one thing I won't be as a state senator is outworked. I'm incredibly excited for the opportunity. I'm sure you've heard me say excited a lot tonight, but I am incredibly excited at the opportunity that lays before us as a state. We have a young state house that's coming in. We have young politicians that are stepping up to the plate, and it's our generation's turn to make a stand. I'm Philip Clay, and on May 7th, I ask for your vote. If you have any questions, I'll be in the back as well, but I'm gonna do this. 317-561-0470. That's my number. Call me, text me. It's not a FaceTime number, but call me or text me. We'll get coffee, we'll get a Coke, we'll go and golf, whatever. Call me. I'm here to listen. I'm here to act. Thank you.
Thank you both, Philip Clay and Michael Young, State Senate District 35. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we will be starting with the next round in 5 minutes. So it will be our state representatives from District 28 will be speaking next in about 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now be starting with the state representatives for District 28. Joe Batic and Jeffrey Thompson will be coming to the stage. They will take turns with opening comments, questions, and closing. And Joe, you're first. I already drew straws, so.
How did I get that?
Yeah, you're the lucky one. And I will
you.
tell you when your 3 minutes are up.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming tonight. And thank you for the foundation for putting on the event. What a blessing this has been from day one in a conversation with my wife about running for elected office. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. It's kind of always hard to do. I'm a talker, but when it comes to myself, that's a tough nut. I'm 62 years old. I'm not a politician. I'm an average Joe. And I mean that. My name's Joe Batic, and I'm an average Joe. I grew up in Hendricks County. I went to school in Hendricks County. I raised my kids in Hendricks County, and I currently reside in Hendricks County with my wife, Jean. And Jean and I have been best friends since we were 15 years old. So, and when you get a little older in life, you gain a little bit of wisdom. And the wisdom that I obtained was you listen to two entities in your life, one being God and the second being your wife. So I came home one evening. I said I had dinner with a friend of mine, and the conversation come up about running for a political office. And I thought I'd feel her out a little bit. I said, honey, your honest thoughts. And she said, I think it's a great idea. So from then on, it's been full board. And we've had really a good time on the journey. The State House, everybody was so kind, opening up doors and explaining things. And I had started a business when I was 18 years old, and we made political buttons. In fact, I made probably most of all the buttons that you've seen in here tonight over the years. The business, actually now looking at it, I probably should have got into t-shirts. So there's a little bit more market out there for t-shirts. The business grew. I worked at home. I started at home. I was going to college in mom and dad's game room. And what a supportive family. I'm the one of 4 boys. I'm the youngest. Our business grew over the 42 years. We've made millions and millions and millions of buttons. And that gave me an opportunity to work with hundreds and hundreds of families in Hendricks County. I worked with a lot of college kids, a lot of high school kids, which I was so grateful to have the opportunity to mentor them. In fact, I still have relationships with most of all those kids today. They still come by, they see me at the house, they swim on the weekends. My first political donor, I got $25 from a kid that worked for me 15 years ago. And I'll shut up. Thank you. Thank you. You don't need my notes, Mr. Thompson. You know what you're doing.
Well, good evening, and thank you to the Hendricks County Community Foundation for sponsoring this. And as most of you know, I have to have some glasses. I got to put those on. You know, as a baby-faced 22-year-old walking down the hall at Danville Community High School, doing my student teaching, and the principal asked me, Jeff, will you work here next year? He was right to the point, love the man. And I said yes. And that started a over 30-year career at Danville Community High School teaching chemistry and physics and math. And I tell people, if I wasn't in this position here, I'd still be in the classroom. Also spent 20 years cooperating a family farm. We farm both in Putnam and Hendricks County, and have now served for 15 years on the board of directors for North Salem State Bank. Prior to the time I was elected state representative, I spent 12 years on the Hendricks County Fair Board, and 4 years as president, and 8 years on the Indiana State Fair Board, and 4 years as president there also. My wife and I just celebrated last fall our 30th anniversary, and we have 6 children, ages 20 to 29, and 3 grandchildren and 1 on the way. And I brought with me a list of what I've been a part of, because you don't pass legislation by yourself. You don't create a state by yourself. But Indiana ranks first in the Midwest and 6th in the nation in Chief Executive Magazine's annual best and worst states. Indiana ranks first in the Midwest and 7th in the nation in economic outlook. Here's one I really like. We're 2nd lowest in the nation in unfunded pension liability. And if you believe you don't want to have your children inherit a huge, huge burden, that is key. And the goal is to make us first. We have the lowest pension liability in the state. Indiana's also ranked 2nd in the nation in the Forbes, in the best place to start a business. And so I want to continue that Indiana progressing. And we've made a lot of strides. And as I tell people, you know, I read some of these here, we're not number 1. Some of those are we. We always strive to be the best in the nation. And so I want to continue in my present role and keep driving Indiana forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. You will go ahead now and you will answer your questions.
And I think I've got a copy of those with me here. Yes, the first one regarding public schools and referendum. That right now in Indiana code, you can, in 4 counties, and almost all the charters are located in 4 counties. I supported that because it's pretty important in those, but beyond that, it shouldn't go beyond those 4 counties. Next question deals with public education. And I can tell you the largest increase ever in public education was a bill I authored, the state budget, about a year ago. It was about $1.5 billion increase. In this county, we're just around $15,000, state and local, per student. And that actually is above the statewide average. And I will continue to support that. It's a priority. It's about, as was said earlier, about half of our state budget. As far as marijuana goes, if you look at data, and I'm just kind of a data nut, you can't support that because of the increased cost to taxpayers. It will cost, and we know that, and I don't want to support things that would harm taxpayers. Yes, there's some medicinal in cases, and for health reasons, that might be exceptions. And as I read the last question last night, I thought, this is the one that I really like, because it talks about how you're going to help address real local issues. And my mind, of course, goes to the fiscal side. And that, to me, is the largest thing that I'd like to accomplish in the time I have left, is start the process in local government reform on the financial side. That is key. Because right now, as it's in the budget in the House passed version, the House passed wasn't the final part, we're looking at a gap that's $6,000 in the statewide view now in the operations fund, and it's exploding. And that was a year ago. Now it's $6,600 and will soon be $10,000 by the end of the decade if we do nothing. And philosophically, I believe in treating children the same. Now, there are exceptions, special ed, and those kinds of things. But to me, local government finance is the one that we've got to work on. Because it's always easy to say, let's go just 2 more years like it is. And of course, then in 2 years later, guess what? Let's go 2 more years. And my mind thinks it has to be. What's it look like in a decade out? In a decade out, it won't look good, and some of the things I could talk about are happening in this county in more detail. But to me, that's the passion I want to really change in the years to come. Thank you.
If I drop this, right? Okay. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Let's talk a little bit about the questions. And I thought that was very nice that they actually emailed the questions out before the event. Again, this is my first political event, so sorry about that, right? I do approve of charter schools, and I'll tell you why. I think that anytime there's a competition in any type of arena, it breeds excellence. So I think giving the parents more choices is always a good thing. I went to a private school for 1 year in 8th grade. It was a brand new school that started up. I told mom and dad I'm interested, and man, did I really learn. My first 2 years in high school, it was all review. So as I got older, I had the boys. We sent them to private school just until the age of like 4th grade. Joe and Jake, my pride of my life next to my wife. Now I'm going to kind of move on. I know I'm probably eating up too much time. I do support public education in a hands-down way. I've got 6 nephews and nieces that are teachers in District 28. and we get together all the time. And they're the closest thing it could be to my kids. And what do they struggle with? They struggle in the classroom with discipline, and they struggle at home with finances. I'm going to kind of push that on down to the other part of the question was funding. And I'm all about, and I want to work hard to increase the salaries of our teachers. Our teachers are the most valuable asset that we have as far as influence on our children. And I think that they should make a good living, they should make a fair living, and I'm for increasing the budget, but what I'd like to do is take those new funds and give them directly to the teachers. The administrative cost in our schools, let's leave that alone. Let's not inflate that budget any, but let's make the Indiana teachers proud to be Indiana teachers with the top pay in the state of Indiana. Marijuana, I'm going to have to say no. And the reason that I'm going to say no, I know there's medicinal purposes for marijuana, but marijuana as a whole, if the state licenses it to be sold, I know that that's going to filter down to our youth in the community. So, maybe there's a side of the state that is curious about tax revenue, although I understand that apparently it actually is a deficit. But right now I'm going to say no on the marijuana. I think I got cut off, but she gave me part two. Thank you. All right, well, in closing, I want to say just a couple things briefly that I'm interested in serving District 28. And it's not for the income. I've wanted to serve all my life in and out of politics, served at church, but our founding fathers created a remarkable system. From the local to the state to the federal level, our politicians moved in and out of office, and that allowed the next person to serve. So by doing that, and I know that some of the people in DC have been in there over 50 years, and I think that's sad. I think that elected officials, they're servants of the people. I truly believe that. And if they stay for 50 years, they become employees of our government. Albert Einstein said, one of my favorite quotes, that you cannot solve a problem with the same mind that created it. And all that means is to get some fresh ideas and fresh blood into the arena. The things that I'm concerned about while I'm running, listening to Brett Clark, I appreciate those comments. In my research, trying to prepare for tonight, I found that a crime is committed every 4 hours and 25 minutes in Hendricks County. And that is sad. I'm sure that you grew up in the same arena that I did. We left our doors unlocked, our cars unlocked, our houses open, even when we left to go to church. That needs to be changed. And on that note, I'd like to thank all of the policemen, all of the policewomen, all of the firemen, all of the servants that create an environment for us to be safe and to raise our children. So on that note, I'm going to close. I'd like to thank you for your time tonight. I'd like to thank you for listening to me. I'd like to please request your support, your vote, and your prayers. So God bless Indiana, and thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Your closing statements.
Thank you. As I've said publicly many times before my current position, 2011 was a difficult session. And at that time, I was the one assigned for the school funding formula. And we changed that year from funding schools to funding students. And it's probably, I haven't done the exact calculation, but I can do a rough one in my head. It's about $100 million difference for Hendricks County children compared to where we would have been if we'd have left the law in place as it was prior to 2011. 11. And it's important also that we may not always get everything we want in that place. I've got a vote, but it takes 51 in the House. And that was a difficult session because we had to work to get the 51 votes to get it across. And it could well have been that if we'd have had the ideal school run, and school runs, by the way, are just formulas that distribute about half the state budget. If we'd have had that, maybe Hendricks County students would have got $110 million. We had to settle on $100 million because you know what? You couldn't get the votes across the line. And you have to keep working to try to find a way to do that. And I want to be sure, because as chairman of Ways and Means, your mind has to work a decade out. It must. And I'm not trying to be presumptuous because that would not be appropriate, but you have to think that way in that position. We're thinking about long-term for the state. And I know I'll have 3 bills, probably the 3 largest bills and 3 last bills to probably pass here at the end of the week, hopefully. Big tax bills. And I can tell you right now, I won't get everything in those bills. I always say if I can get 85%, that is great. And the last thing I want to leave you with, maybe kind of odd, but it weighs on me, and because I see what happens in Washington, D.C. And that is, I have responsibility to you to leave the institution in a better place. In a place where there's good debate, but we don't attack each other personally. You know, one of the highlights last year, I guess in the middle of the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, a person named Greg Porter. He's the Democrat, ranking member on Ways and Means, give me a hug after we passed the state budget that night. We strongly disagree on some topics, but we're friends, and we keep it to the issues and not let it become personal. So again, I ask for your support to continue moving Indiana forward. Thank you.
Thank you to both Joe and Jeff. State Representative District 28. We'll be starting with State Representatives District 40, Brian Paasch and Greg Steuerwald. Let's say 5 minutes. We will be wrapping up with State Representatives District 40, Brian Paasch and Greg Steuerwald. Greg will start with our opening comments.
Thank you. By way of introduction, my name is Greg Steuerwald. My wife was at the table earlier this evening. I was in session, so I got here just a little bit late. I have 3 kids. My oldest son is a dentist. My daughter works has her own healthcare business in Zionsville. And my youngest son is an attorney. He is a municipal finance attorney downtown, a bond attorney. And I often say that my son graduated magna cum laude from grad school or law school, and I graduated thank the laude from law school. I was first elected in a caucus in 2007. Over my tenure, I have been the chairman of Courts and Criminal Code, chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and also the Ethics Committee. I describe the Ethics Committee as like sailing. It's 95% boredom and 5% panic. Once you have that issue, the integrity of not only the State House, but a man or woman's reputation is at stake. So those cases are extremely difficult. The Ethics Committee is a nonpartisan committee. It's 3 Democrats and 3 Republicans. I'm currently the caucus chairman. It's one of 3 elected positions in the House. We have the Speaker, the floor leader, and me, the caucus chair. So my duties are very exciting. I assign seats on the floor, I assign parking spots and offices within the State House. And if you want to know or find out what various state reps think of anybody, wait till you assign offices and half the people say, I don't want to be with him or her. You will find that I am a huge supporter of law enforcement. always have been, always will be, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Paasch, and I am running for the Republican nomination of Indiana District Representative, District 40. Do any of you feel like something hasn't been right with Indiana state government the past few years? If you're a voting Republican, would you expect the government to selectively shut down certain businesses and all the churches for the greater good of society? Would you expect a Republican-led government to label us citizens as essential or not essential, and then give special privileges for travel and work to the essential labeled? Would you expect the Republican leaders in the General Assembly to introduce a pro-abortion bill shortly after Roe versus Wade was overturned? Do examples like these leave Republicans wondering who is setting the agenda at the state capitol? We, the people, have fallen under the control of a deeply entrenched establishment that serves the interests of government and very powerful and wealthy special interests. The establishment has become so inward focused that they cannot even tolerate an occasional real conservative representative. My opponent has been in office since 2007, and in that time, he's grown in position and power. Leading into the 2022 election, he became the pointy tip of the spear that took out our two most conservative Republican representatives. Think about that. Establishment Republicans willfully destroying conservative Republicans. On May 7th, my fellow Hoosier voters have a choice. Return a fierce and highly effective defender of the establishment to office, or send a real Hoosier citizen to fight for us, we the people. Some of us may have given up hope, reining in the power of government, but actually the plan goes beyond me. There is a working plan all across the state among conservative challengers to actually do something towards reining in the establishment's power. It is too complicated to share right here, right now, but if you are curious, come talk to me at the tables afterwards. I'm Brian Paasch. We, the people, have a very distinct choice ahead of us on May 7th. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Brian. You will now go into your questions section. You should have gotten a copy of those, or they are up on the screen behind you, but you have 3 minutes.
We'll change the scrap of paper here. All right, I'm going to lump the first two into one topic. They're both school. And basically, my position is school choice. Give the parents as many reasonable choices as possible. Government school, in whatever form. I did some quick research on charter schools. I'm told they're just a different flavor of public schools. Church schools, private schools, home schools, online learning, all of that is all of those are very valid choices. So I am very pro-parent choice on education. Second one, marijuana. I noticed that it didn't say recreational or medical. So I'm gonna address recreational. If you want to talk about medical, again, come talk to me. I can be a total nerd on that. But on recreational, I currently work in supply chain management and freight logistics. I have worked around very heavy, scary equipment for quite a few years now. I've helped load cargo aircraft. I helped load trucks, work around those trucks, those cargo airplanes. And the thought of having coworkers around me, not of their full senses, is terrifying. We had an incident at the place where I work right now, not too long ago. A forklift driver was high. We didn't realize it. And they took off with a load of $500,000 worth of drug. It wasn't wrapped. They hit the pedal to the metal, took a turn, all goes over, $250,000 of drug wrecked. I don't want that in my workplace. I like going home with my toes and fingers. I have worked at places where people have died in accidents. I don't want it. If you want to talk medical, come talk to me. The last one, address real local issues. I'm surprised I haven't heard anybody else say this, but Article 4, Section 22 of the Constitution says, no local, no special laws. So the local communities are supposed to manage their laws, and the state is supposed to manage its laws. Now, we can talk about issues, that's fine, but as far as the state meddling in the lawmaking process at the local level, the Indiana State's Constitution says you don't do that, period. So that one, I don't see how that isn't a direct conflict with our Indiana State Constitution.
Thank you. As to the questions, I think the first question, the impetus of that was Senate Bill 391 last year, which dealt a very narrow approach to 4 counties, and it had guidelines with duties both for the traditional public school as well as a charter school. If that would have affected any Hendricks County school, I would have not supported it. I would have voted against it if it impacted or dealt with any Hendricks County school. How do we continue to support public education? We can do that a couple ways. Not only just funding, we want to make sure that they are properly funded, no question about that. As Representative Thompson mentioned earlier, this is his bailiwick. And I got to put in a plug for Jeff. There's nobody knows school funding and the formula better than Jeff. Since we started saying that money follows the student, every school in Hendricks County has benefited fairly dramatically. You know, we not only do it from a funding standpoint, but I had a school safety bill that made an active event warning system. It was not mandatory, but it was an interlocal agreement between the Sheriff's Association and the school district. What that bill did, it developed an app that any employee of the school system in an event could push a button, and it would notify every law enforcement officer within a certain parameter, both local, state, and federal, on duty or off. It also notified 911, but it went direct to the officer, so it didn't have to go through 911. After that bill passed, there was an incident north of Lafayette. Everybody says timing is the key issue with these events. An off-duty officer was at the school in around 37 seconds. Fortunately, it was a false alarm, but he was there. I just think school safety is a huge part of what we do. House Bill 1042, which just passed today, it was a follow-up bill from last year's House Bill 1528. It deals with Hoosier educator scholarships, and it's the part where it's transition to teaching. Last year, we put in $1 million for a $10,000 maximum grant for those who want to transition into teaching. When they opened the website, within 15 minutes it shut down due to the interest. We had over 300 people apply in the first 15 minutes. Okay. Sure. Thank you. Oh.
Yes.
I'm in the closing remarks. Okay. Well, back to, we had 300 people apply. So this year, we've 1402 opened up the other silos within the Hoosier Educator Scholarships for the people who want to transition in there. So we want to make these scholarships available. We need teachers. I hear that all the time. We're trying to give them scholarships in order to induce them to do that. I do hear from almost every other sector of the population industry that everybody needs jobs. And I'm fairly proud of that. Indiana is one of the only Midwestern states to gain population between 2010 and 2020. That is a very telling statistic. People are moving here for jobs, low taxes, and low cost of living. You've seen the announcements all the time for another $2 or $3, $4 billion project that's coming to Indiana. I do want to mention the marijuana. I am a huge law enforcement person, okay? And I am in contact with them constantly. Prosecuting Attorneys Council does not support legalizing marijuana, neither does law enforcement. I talked to the Sheriff's Association today. They'd been up in Michigan dealing with 7 states who had passed it by referendum. They said it was chaos because there were no guidelines, there were nothing, and it was just by referendum. There are so many aspects of this. You got to talk about licensing, distribution, retail, and something that's not mentioned, you have to do testing. You have to do immediate testing, just like you do for an OWI. We have to provide that to everybody, and that technology is not there yet. So there are just so many aspects to it. It sounds simple to say it, but there are so many aspects of that. Supporting local government, their job, like all government, public safety and transportation. We have the best, #1 rated road funding system in the country. We need to continue that, continue funding for the locals through the grants, and making sure that we fund them properly. One last thing. You know, we hear about the balanced budget and AAA credit rating. What does that mean? We say it all the time. I remember the day when we didn't have a balanced budget. AAA bond rating means the state of Indiana pays 2 to 3% interest on their bonds. State of Illinois is one step above junk bond status. They pay 9 to 11% on every bond they issue. So for every $1 billion Indiana does in bonds, we pay 20, 30 million in interest a year. Illinois pays 90 to 111, 110. That's why you have the balanced budget, and I'm proud of that. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
I'm last, right? We're done. Okay. I'm going to do a quick public service announcement on the Constitution. Sometimes I ask people, what is the Constitution? Can you boil it down to 2 or 3 words? And I kind of get the deer in the headlights look. And, you know, a lot of us are taught today that it's an ancient document that old people wrote for their own personal interests, which is absolutely a load of garbage. The Constitution is a rule book that belongs to we the people. It does not belong to the government or the courts. It is our rule book for how the government is supposed to function. And we the people, the citizens, form that government for us, by us, to secure our rights, which are described in the Constitution. And so if anybody ever says, oh, it's just some ancient document that doesn't mean anything, they're wrong. I mean, if you can tell them that politely, great. If not, maybe just walk away. I mentioned the Constitution. I mentioned we the people. You folks, thank you for coming tonight. You've been doing a job interview. You've been considering who you're going to hire to represent you in government. Again, by the people, for the people, to secure your rights. And you're handing me the employee manual. You're handing me the rule book. And then I'm going to go down and I'm going to swear an oath to uphold that rule book. And I will take that oath very seriously. I'm Brian Paasch. Thank you again for coming tonight.
Thank you, Brian. State Rep District 40, Brian Paasch, and Greg Steuerwald for District 40. You gotta go out that way, unless you're gonna go ahead and go through that hole in the ground there. So, I just wanna say, as a Hendricks County resident, I feel very honored to be here tonight to see so many people up here who they have a passion for our county and for what they do and for making it better. You don't get into politics for the money, I don't think, because I'm pretty sure you guys don't get paid a whole lot. But you get into it because you want to make a difference. And I appreciate everyone who has been here tonight and letting us know how you feel on certain things. I also want to make sure that we continue to thank our event sponsors, the Hendricks County GOP, Hendricks County Democrats, the Republican newspaper, and the Hendricks County Community Foundation. And if you maybe were late or something and you maybe missed a speaker, this will be on the Facebook page of the Hendricks County Community Foundation. So if you'll go on their Facebook page where it advertises Meet the Candidate, there is a link for tonight's program. But thank you all for being here and for supporting our candidates and making our county and our state much better. Thank you.